Thank you so very, very much. I was actually here, but we had assured our colleagues at KSL, Grant and Amanda, that we would do the 820 hit live with them to promote what we were doing over here. So I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm so grateful that they placed me very close to Utah's most important city. I'm right in the shadow. I appreciate that. I'm sure that was planned by the league, and it's a great, great honor to be here. It's a great honor to share the stage with these two fine gentlemen. I've mentioned for years that save only the governor and the statewide elections and our U.S. senators, nobody represents more people in the state of Utah than does the Salt Lake County mayor. So this is a very important debate, and I'm very grateful that Mr. McAdams, Mr. Crockett could join us today, and let's give these gentlemen a round of applause. The way this is going to work, I don't think anybody's flipped a coin yet on you guys, have they? Radio announcers are so cheap, I've got to see if I've got a coin. I usually borrow them. All right, I'm going to flip a coin, and Mark, how about if you call it? Here we go.
Sure. Heads.
Heads, and it is heads, which means that Mark will get the first word and the last word in the debate. What we'll do, we'll open with an opening statement of about 90 seconds or so. There will be a timer down here. I think we're going to reset those momentarily and have those ready to go. So gentlemen, keep an eye on the timer there. We'll also let you know, I think if for any reason this goes awry, we'll have someone here on the front row who will also give you the cues. We'll give you a cue at 30 seconds, and if you'd be on time, it would greatly facilitate our debate today. And then what we'll do after the opening statements, we will start with individual questions where we would like to give you 60 seconds. So let's start, for example, after the opening, it will go to Mr. McAdams. We'll give him 60 seconds. Mr. Crockett will get 60 seconds. Then there will be a 30-second rebuttal from Mr. McAdams, and then it will flip back and forth. And then we'll wrap up our debate with about a 45-second or minute closing statement. So gentlemen, let's get going, and let's start. And Mark Crockett, since you won the coin toss, by the way, a very sophisticated dime facilitated that, let's start with your opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, Doug, and thank you all for being here. I believe that this race is actually pretty simple. It matters a lot, but it's pretty simple. This is an $820 million budget, 3,600 employees, hundreds of programs ranging from jails and mental health and drug treatment to convention centers and regional parks, and overall the state of our community, the state of our job creation, and how much we're able to help some people that are in need. It's an executive job. I am the person in this race who has actually run things, who has actually turned things around in large and complicated organizations. Having spent my career helping large organizations save billions of dollars, bring stakeholders together from the front lines of the work and all of the parts of their organization and their consumers, and in governments, all of their stakeholders, bringing them together to find the better, more efficient ways to do things, how to improve services. That's what I've done for my career. That's what we can do for the county. And if we do that at the county, we can do a few important things. One, we need to keep taxes down. Times are tough right now, and while government has needs, people have needs too, and we need to make sure that we aren't imposing any greater tax burden on our people right now, and that will have ripple effects through in the state and the rest of the community. Looks like I'm out of time, but we'll talk about more as we go along.
Thank you. Mr. McAdams.
Thank you, Doug. It's great to be here today. When Mayor Caroon announced last year that he wasn't going to run for a third term, many of the people who had supported him, who liked his style of collaborative leadership, working together across party lines with North and South, East and West, many of those same people approached me and encouraged me to run for county mayor. And I was a bit taken aback. This wasn't a race that I saw myself necessarily running for. I'm in the state Senate representing Salt Lake City, South Salt Lake, and West Valley City. As a state legislator, I've worked to secure stable funding streams for education, authorize legislation to strengthen child safety standards and consumer protection standards, and increase funding for mass transit. In this race already, I have support. There are 16 cities in Salt Lake County. each of them with a mayor and council. Of those 16 mayors, 12 are supporting me in my campaign: Republicans, Democrats, Independents. This campaign to me is about taking Salt Lake County into the future. And the future that I see for Salt Lake County is where we work together, where we put aside partisanship and we form partnerships to work together to elevate our county to the next level. Now, my wife Julie and I think we consider ourselves blessed to be able to raise our family here in Salt Lake County. We have a wonderful community, and for me, this race is also very simple. This is about recognizing the things that we're blessed with and giving back to continue the high quality of life in Salt Lake County.
Thank you for your opening statements. Let's get right to the questions, and this will be a precursor to a follow-up. But some of our communities are considering incorporation. Some of our communities are considering townships. As we look at Salt Lake County, more and more of the county is not unincorporated area anymore. It is either a municipality that is incorporated or a community that has chose to make itself a township. First of all, your thoughts on that trend and the decreasing amount of unincorporated land, and what does this mean for the future mayor of Salt Lake County? And Ben McAdams, let's start with you.
Thank you, Doug. Look, you're right. Salt Lake County has changed, and the paradigm that we saw 50 years ago, where Salt Lake County was an island of farmland and open space with islands, a sea of open space and farmland with islands of population. That paradigm has changed today. Today, what we see in Salt Lake County is a sea of population with islands of open space and farmland. The paradigm of county government has changed, and I think the county needs to adapt to reflect that. We need to work more efficiently. We need to start working across party lines, across city lines, unincorporated and cities working together to streamline government, to have government work smarter and more efficiently. When a snowplow drives down the north side of the road and plows only the north side but not the south because there happens to be a city line down the middle of that road, that costs us money. And then a snowplow comes and plows the south side of the road. That costs us money. If we can learn to work together, now that we are population from the north to the south, we are wall-to-wall population, we need to have a government that reflects that.
Mark Crockett.
About 60 years ago, we made a decision. We didn't maybe make it in a big grand way, but we started in Salt Lake County to roll out a bunch of cities. We started before that, but that's when we really kind of said, this is the direction we're going. So what are we going to do at this point? I think the answer is clear. Maybe it would have been better to have metro government. Maybe it would have been to have everything better under the county, but we have 16 cities. And those cities aren't going to go away. They are responsive to their local communities. People in local communities like having a person that they can call, or a bunch of people in a council and a local city planning office. They like to be able to make those decisions. So what can the county do? One, we can recognize that the county's role is primarily about regional services and about human services. Those are the main purposes of county government as opposed to municipal government. Second, we can make sure that county has a plan for if Mill Creek, for example, incorporates, that we have a plan for all the rest of the unincorporated areas and how they will be financially viable and sustainable. And third, we can make sure that we support local communities in coming together to coordinate where is possible, to share services, and make sure that when we can do things regionally, we can do them well regionally.
Ben, a 30-second response on that. We'll give you a little extra time.
You know, for me, county government, there are a lot of challenges that we face with the 16 cities and 16 city councils. For me, this is about electing a mayor who will be ready for game day on day one. I'm proud that I have relationships throughout the county with the mayors and the leaders throughout our county who it's going to take collaboration and cooperation to confront the challenges that face us. I have those relationships today. I have experience working with them to build coalitions, and I will do that with mayors throughout the county.
I'd like to follow up on that. As I have talked with some of our great mayors and council members from not only around the state, but specifically here in Salt Lake County, boy, this comes up every single time, and that is, as the county itself grows, the population grows, perhaps even the number of municipalities grows, the amount of unincorporated area diminishes. what is likely to become? And boy, I'll tell you, every one of these mayors and councilmen that I'm talking to, councilmen and women, are saying that a lot of the decision-making and the leadership will come from one of you. So as this happens, and we have these cross lines that has already been alluded to, snowplows were mentioned, there seems to be some confusion over jurisdiction. Who does have responsibility? Who does provide the service? Everything from the police and the fire right on down to the water, garbage collection, you name it. If you are to be elected and you take the role as Salt Lake County Mayor, what is your vision of what this community should look like? This huge population center in the state of Utah, how should it function? Who should be responsible for what? And this time we start with Mark Crockett.
Well, of course, as a community, what we want are more jobs, more opportunities, cleaner air, the ability to drive around, kids that come home happy and excited from school, right? That's what we all want. The role of the county in that is first, its statutory requirement, actually, is taking care of people that we're worried about but we haven't given up on. And the mental health programs and the seniors programs and the programs for at-risk kids and the jail. That is the unique role of county government. Then we have regional services where we need to have trails connecting to parks, to connecting to libraries, and a wonderful infrastructure that makes this a great place to live. We also need to make this a better place to do business. We can make it simpler. I have people telling me all the time how difficult it is to do business here, and I find that strange given how much we love business in this town. Why is it that our local businesses grow up and then get sold and move away? We need to find a way to keep them here, and the county government can do that in part by focusing on its mission and helping the cities focus on theirs, which are the municipal services that you mentioned in your question.
Mr. McAdams.
Thank you, Doug. You know, Salt Lake County, I believe there are challenges on our horizon. We have a population now of just over 1 million people, but within 20 years, the population of Salt Lake County will be 2 million. We will double. Now, I don't think that's something that's on the radar screens as we go about our business from day to day, but that population growth is an immense energy that will change the future of Salt Lake County. Now, the future I see for Salt Lake County is one where all our kids receive a quality public education, where our kids aren't kept inside at recess because the air is not safe to breathe, where we can effectively commute from north to south and east and west without getting stuck in hours and hours of traffic jams. The future I see for Salt Lake County is one where we have a robust transportation network that includes mass transit, tracks, bus lines. The future I see for Salt Lake County is one where our kids, where my kids and your kids can still recreate in the canyons without and find themselves in the canyons without excess development. We need to keep things in balance in this county, and we can, but we can only do it by working together.
Mark, your 30 seconds.
On the transportation part, with growth coming into this valley, actually with growth coming into this valley, there are two things that we need to focus on, I think, in the county. One is regional services, regional roads, making sure that the Mountain View corridor goes through, that we have east-west roads in the southwest part of the valley that can sustain the traffic that's happening there. We also need to understand that as more people come, that there are more requirements at the people level. The county in the past has focused on building a lot of buildings, and that's great. What we also need to do now is to start thinking ahead as the demographics change, as the population grows, what we do for the people in the valley.
If I might follow up on that question, though, gentlemen, and what we'll do on this one is just give you each 60 seconds. Again, many of our mayors are very concerned about this meshing, this coming together, and there seems to be with special service districts, with different municipal responsibilities, and again, the snowplow example is a perfect one. How are you, as a potential future Salt Lake County mayor, going to facilitate the meshing of gears rather than the grinding of gears on these very important public services that our mayors and councilmen in Salt Lake County are so concerned about? This time we'll go to Ben McAdams first.
Well, thanks, Doug. And I think there's an answer that probably the policy wonks like me and the other elected officials in the room are looking for. And then there's the answer I think that the people on the radio are looking for. Salt Lake County is a complicated place, and there's an active debate about whether we should have wall-to-wall cities, whether we should remain unincorporated, whether we should have special service districts. And those are all valid, they're valid points in all of those. But when I think about the people sitting at home listening to this on the radio, I think what they worry about is that they get a high level of service, and they worry about how much it's going to cost them. Now, only by working together, only by those gears, with your analogy, Doug, only by those gears meshing together well can we deliver a high quality of service at a low possible price. I talked about the snowplow that plows only the north side of the street or the south side of the street. There are other examples that are scary. When I pick up the phone to dial 911 because a loved one is having a heart attack, I don't care which ambulance comes. I want the closest one to come. I don't care what's written on the side of that ambulance. And that's where we need to work together to find how to deliver services, the highest quality services, at the lowest possible price.
So let's get very specific about this. The 911 thing. And then we'll give you two specific responses. One is that the 911 thing is we don't want, when we call, not just which provider comes, we don't want to get transferred from one dispatch service to another. We don't want to be on hold. Why is it over the last 20 years that we haven't been able to come together and actually get our county unified on one dispatch service? I think there are two answers to that. One is ego, and the other is money. Turf wars, where the county has been trying to be the forceful leader, asserting things to cities, has not really worked out very well. It's caused fights between the county and the state, and fights between the county and the cities. The county needs to recognize that its primary purpose is regional and human services, and that the municipalities own municipal services. So what if we had the county say, we step forward and you take the lead, we don't care which system we're on, we're going to support you. And second, if we can get our budget house in order at the county and we can save a few nickels, then perhaps we as a county can facilitate the cities coming together around the right dispatch service and actually finally get that transition paid for.
Ben, if you'd care to a few extra seconds here.
Sure, thank you. I think my opponent is saying the right points, which is we need to work together, and I believe the county mayor needs to be a facilitator of that conversation, not necessarily driving one outcome or another. I think the principles are highest quality of service, lowest possible price. I've been disappointed to see my opponent over the past few weeks actually picking a side and driving an outcome, and I think the county mayor needs to come into this with clean hands and an open mind to what that answer may be. My opponent's been speaking about favoring the Mill Creek Incorporation, and as a goal of taking Mill Creek and pulling them out of the regional collaborative police service and looking for a more balkanized police service. And I have some concerns about that. I think the future of Salt Lake County is working together to lower the cost and provide a high quality of service.
Mark, let me give you let's give you 15 seconds here.
So if you're going to talk about my record, let's at least be clear that you're saying it right, Ben. So one, for Mill Creek, I do think that they would be better off if you look at what they need in their area and what would be for the lowest cost service and so on. I would recommend that they do that, but that's not my picking sides. That's them asking my advice. As county mayor, I have always said to all parties in that as county mayor, my job will be to offer the lowest possible service, increase their voice, and to do it all at the lowest possible cost, and that we will do that in the county structure.
Okay, we need to move to another topic here. Let's go to transportation and infrastructure, which has been mentioned. We've talked a little bit about the infrastructure, but transportation specifically has been mentioned. If indeed the population of this great county is going to double in the next 20 years, that is going to paint a considerably different picture. I have sensed that there have been a little different attitude. While everybody agrees that there should be great mass transit here along the Wasatch Front, there have been some differing opinions on how to finance it, how to actually facilitate it, how to actually pull it and push it forward. So let's move in that direction, and let's start this time with, since Mark got the last word on this one, let's go to Ben McAdams. What is your vision for mass transit as Salt Lake County Mayor, working with all of the entities, everything from the federal government on down, to move this forward? What is your vision for mass transit?
I think our future includes mass transit. As a legislator, I've worked built strong relationships with my Republican colleagues, working across party lines to find funding for mass transit. Our population is growing. We need to recognize the fact that we are a major metropolitan area, and mass transit needs to factor into our future plans. I'm concerned as our population grows that we not react and build transportation infrastructure to follow the population, because that's expensive. We see happening in areas on the west side right now that we are taking out homes, that we're going in and exercising eminent domain to take out homes to build transportation infrastructure, and that's expensive. If we plan ahead, if we work together to plan with the county and the cities throughout the county where we want to be, where our population growth is going to be, and plan transportation infrastructure accordingly, we can do it more cost effectively, a lower cost to the taxpayers, and less pain and suffering to the taxpayers. And I believe then that doesn't cost dollars. It doesn't cost dollars to plan ahead. I believe planning for the future, planning for the challenges we see on our horizon is a Utah value.
Mark.
We are going to grow. Mass transit does need to be part of the equation, but roads need to be part of that equation too. And we need quite a bit more roads. My argument about mass transit is actually this. We need to buy up the corridors. Let's spend money on acquiring land that is harder to get later, and maybe not rush so much more quickly to put trains in that are right now running largely empty. In other words, we want to make sure that we have mass transit coming, but let's use our scarce dollars on the scarce resource, which is the land. And then let's facilitate the traffic that is here and now. That way we have a plan for the future, and we also help things here and now. If we do it in that order rather than always rushing to construction, we won't, if we rush to construction before we have the land, we'll get it in reverse order, and order matters. If we get it in the right order, we can do more.
Ben, your 30 seconds.
You know, there's an old saying in politics that says, you're entitled to your own opinion, you're not entitled to your own facts. I would like to ask those residents of Daybreak in South Jordan if those trains are running empty. I see them coming into Salt Lake City every morning packed. People can't find seats, they're standing up. I believe that our investment in a transportation infrastructure was a wise investment. And not only that, but it was approved overwhelmingly by the voters of Salt Lake County. We listened, and we're doing what they want. And that, I think, allows then housing choices to be made around transportation choices. And that is smart planning. That's a wise investment in our future.
Again, not only does the Salt Lake County mayor have a great effect on the county itself, but we have many neighboring counties where there are interconnects, where there is a lot of cross-pollination here along the Wasatch Front. We refer to this great population base in the state of Utah. As you anticipate a position as Salt Lake County mayor, look at the importance of taking care of Salt Lake County, but also the good neighbor relations with our surrounding counties. I've talked with many of our great mayors who are from Ogden, from the Weber County area, from Davis County, Tooele County, Summit County, Utah County. How do you see your role as Salt Lake County mayor in being a liaison and a diplomat with our surrounding counties? And Mark, we'll start with you on this one.
We can do more together than we can on our own. While each county has its own unique issues, and while urban counties may have different needs than rural counties and vice versa, we as a set of cities and a set of counties have probably more that unites us in the issues that we want to go talk with our state legislature about than not, right? So the more that we can coordinate, the more that we can join forces on issues that matter statewide, I think the better we're all going to be. So that will, of course, be a priority. We each focus here at home. You focus at home, we focus at home here, but let's also make sure that we work together on those issues that are statewide and that help cities and counties everywhere.
Ben.
Thanks, Doug. You know, I'm a corporate finance attorney. And 5 years ago, I was practicing law here in Salt Lake City, and Salt Lake City Mayor Ralph Becker, when he was elected office, approached me and asked me to come work for him. And his pitch to me was, he said, Ben, Salt Lake City is at war with the state, with cities around the county, with communities around our state. And he said the capital city of our state cannot be at odds with the other communities. And he asked me to come work for him, to give up my law practice and come work for him to build relationships between the capital city and the county and the legislature. Now, one of the things I'm most proud of my professional endeavors when I was hired to bring a business perspective to Salt Lake City is the relationships that we've forged. My first week on the job, we drove to Davis County and we sat down and met with mayors and community leaders in Davis County. Salt Lake County cannot be an island in the state of Utah. We must work with our partners to build our economy, to bring jobs to Salt Lake County, and to forge our way into the future.
Mark, your 30 seconds.
On job creation, which is a great point, and Salt Lake County and probably can do as much to help the entire state in that as ever. We have, in the past, spent too much of our scarce resources trying to move retail districts around the valley. And instead, what we need to do is to understand that with Myriad Genetics, with Huntsman Cancer Research Center, with all the other assets that we have, that there are genetic research jobs globally that make sense to be here rather than almost anywhere else in the world. Pick your industry, technology, construction, or the aviation industry. We have wonderful assets here, and Salt Lake County will start to step up and try to bring jobs that will benefit the entire state.
In the course of our conversation so far, this too has come up, and that is the quality of the air that we breathe. Sadly, not only our community here, the communities in Salt Lake County, but also along the Wasatch Front, even up into the Logan area. There are issues of the air quality. As a potential future mayor of Salt Lake County, how seriously will you take the quality of Salt Lake County's air, and what will you do about it? And we start with Ben McAdams on this.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, our kids in Salt Lake County, anywhere from 5 to 20 times a year, are kept inside at recess because the air is not safe to breathe. This is not acceptable, and it is a serious problem and one we've got to get our hands on. Now, air pollution does not stop at a city boundary. We've got to work together. The challenges of our air pollution. Did you know 60% of pollution in Salt Lake County is caused by vehicles? So when you talk about population, our population growing and doubling in the next 20 years, that's going to add a lot of cars to the road. Now, if we concede that air quality is a challenge we've got to get on top of, and we're looking at a doubling of our population, there are some challenges there. The solution, I believe, is how we grow. It's coming together. It's looking at density, it's looking at mass transit, it's looking at, quite frankly, getting away from the development model of the 1950s where you have a downtown as a hub and spokes around that hub. It means that the future of Salt Lake County is one where we take jobs to Bluffdale, we take jobs to South Jordan, and we take jobs to Sandy so that people can live, work, and recreate in the same place.
Mark, your 60 seconds.
I think Salt Lake County is ready to take this issue on. For a long time, it was, I don't know, anti-growth, or it was anti-business, or it was anti-free agency or something. But I think we all look out every February and we look out every August and we say, gosh, the air is just not really great. So I see that people are actually ready, whether it's the drivers, whether it's the businesses, whether it's the communities, the way we develop. I see that there is a lot of enthusiasm for us to finally start tackling the air quality issue. It's going to be a 10-year issue, a 10-year plan that we're going to have to step by step go through to get there. And what we need to do is to start gearing up as a community to say, well, what am I really prepared to do? Am I really prepared to have somebody tell me where I can build my house, or how I can drive my car, or the like? But we are going to have to make some decisions about it, and we need to begin that conversation now.
Ben, your 30 seconds.
You know, this really is about working together and implementing a vision for the county. As county mayor, I have no direct oversight over the 16 cities in the county. And those mayors of those cities have a vision for their communities and how they want to grow. And I'm going to respect that vision. But what we need is a leader who can think regionally. You know, Teddy Roosevelt said that the single largest ingredient in the formula of success is learning to work together. And I believe that's how, as Salt Lake County, we are going to tackle not only our air quality challenges, but our challenges to our school system, challenges to transportation, and continue to maintain the wonderful communities we have today.
Part of the maintaining of the wonderful communities, not only for Salt Lake County, but for many people in the state of Utah, is the quality of our canyons. So many people, not just immediately in our county area and our municipalities, recreate in Big Cottonwood, Little Cottonwood, Emigration, Red Butte, City Creek, you name it, Parley's Canyon, it goes on and on. There is a hot debate on what the future of our county's canyons should be. What should be facilitated? What kind of growth? Protecting the watershed? What kind of developments? Whether or not there should be a ski link, for example. I'd like your thoughts and perhaps vision of Utah's canyons, but let's talk specifically, of course, of Salt Lake's canyons. Mark, let's go with you first.
We love our canyons. We need to make sure we don't love them to death, as the saying goes, but we love our canyons, and we also have a thriving tourism business that benefits our state greatly because people come here to ski, because they come here to go into the back country. We know that the demands will be greater. I think Ski Link could be a great answer to that. Connecting the resorts could be a great way to do that, as long as, one, we make sure we minimize the environmental impact. Two, we have no impact on the watershed. And three, I'm not too excited if they're coming to the county asking for money for it. We have transportation issues, and we have a bunch of other issues that we need to solve before we see whether that's the right answer. The devil is in the details. But there are some really interesting conversations happening about how we can piece together large pieces of backcountry area and trade them for small pieces around the ski resorts, how we can minimize the impact of transportation. I think there are a lot of opportunities, and I think we should take a good look at them.
Ben.
Thank you. I grew up hiking, camping in these canyons. Some of you may have heard I am an Eagle Scout. So,
who's not?
And today I take my kids hiking in these canyons. We love exploring the canyons. We try to do it almost once a week. We're catching bugs, throwing rocks in streams. Julie and I take our kids in these canyons. I think they are the single biggest asset we have in Salt Lake County, and I want to preserve those. I'm opposed to Ski Link. I don't think the federal government has any prerogative coming in without a community discussion, no input or feedback from the public, coming in and telling us that, hey, guess what? We're going to take that Forest Service land that we all grew up exploring, we're going to sell that to a Canadian company so they can put in a ski lift so that tourists can come in and ski it. Now, I support our ski industry, and tourism is an important part of our economy, but we have a rich history of coming together to make decisions about our canyons that's collaborative, that's transparent, that's open and public. I have concerns about water quality and what impacts that will have on the water quality. The water we drink here in the valley comes from those canyons. And I think that we need a different path. We need to have a public conversation where we engage the residents of Salt Lake County in that decision.
Mark, your 30 seconds.
For a guy who says he wants backcountry areas to be preserved and who works with everybody, I find it interesting that when there is a master plan that's been discussed with 13,000 people about what we do for our canyons, and there are plans in that would include securing backcountry areas and working around the ski resorts, that you and your office have been refusing to talk with people who have a concrete plan on the table in order to accomplish exactly that. I don't know whether it's the right plan, but let's be honest about it. If we want to go get backcountry preserved, let's have the conversations that actually make it possible to do it.
So we can facilitate time for a closing statement. I'm just going to set the stage for one more question, and I'd like you two to ask it of each other. What would you most like to ask Ben McAdams? What would you most like to ask Mark Crockett? And let's start with Ben on this one.
Mark, I think my question for you is, you don't have a reputation of working collaboratively with people in your experience in county council. You have a reputation for losing your temper and making people upset. What plans do you have for confronting the challenges we have in the county and working collaboratively?
I know you've been trying to say that that's my reputation. I think it's only the one that you're trying to create. When I was on the county council, we got together, we laughed every day. I made sure that if we had a 5-4 majority, that we did our best to go and offer something that would allow it to become a 7-2 majority. Everybody got heard. I think you're making a lot out of very little, but I will say in response that you make a big deal about how I get to work with everybody and we all get along. The only people who are in the room when you're having those conversations and when you're all getting along are other politicians, professional government relations people. I should hope that you all get along, but there's one person who's missing in that meeting every time, and it's the taxpayer. As a mayor, as a representative, we want to make sure that the people are represented too. And sometimes that means asking for facts. Sometimes that means actually demanding real answers. And sometimes it even means saying no on behalf of the taxpayer. I'll keep listening, I'll keep talking with everybody, we'll all work and get along, but we also need to watch out for the taxpayer at times too.
Mark, your question for Ben.
You raise a point about leadership. So my question for you, Ben, what have you ever actually led? How many people have you ever had as a direct report? What organization have you run? What budget have you ever actually transformed?
Well, I mean, first of all, my leadership starts at a personal level in service in my church, and I've led congregations and I think done so very well. But beyond that, I also have worked in the private sector. I've been an attorney in a major law firm, leading initiatives, leading corporate financing and business initiatives. I was hired by Salt Lake City to bring a business perspective to government, and in that capacity, I've done that. I've led initiatives that have been written up and talked about throughout our community, including rebuilding and shortening the North Temple Viaduct that has opened up dozens of acres for redevelopment in Salt Lake City, that's changed the face of our downtown, and done that without raising taxes. I'm proud of the work that I've done as a senator in the legislature, working collaboratively to lead initiatives, to create stable funding streams for education, to bring people together around difficult topics like non-discrimination. That's one that we've found a place to come together as a community. Mark, my reputation in the Senate is somebody who listens to everyone. It's not fair to say that I don't have the public in the room, because my cell phone number is available on the website, and I get calls every day from my constituents and from others, and I'm open and accessible, and I enjoy being a representative and working with the public, because that's who I'm here to serve.
It's time for our closing statements. We'll make them 1 minute long, and because of the win of the coin toss, the last word will go to Mark Crockett. So Ben, your turn.
You know, I mentioned at the beginning that when Mayor Caroon decided he wasn't going to run for a third term and made that announcement public, I had many throughout the community coming to me and encouraging me to run, asking me if I would continue the leadership of collaborative leadership, working together like we've seen under the Caroon administration. I will keep taxes low. I will hold the line on taxes and spending, and I think we need a leader who can do that. I have done that. I have enjoyed my work. I'm proud of my work in the legislature, working across party lines. In fact, I believe that a look at my record as a senator will show that I've done exactly that. In fact, for my election for the senator, I was the only Democrat endorsed by the Utah Taxpayers Association, a group that's not always popular in this audience, but because of my willingness to hold the line on spending and keep debt low. If I'm elected as your county mayor, I will represent you, I will listen to you, and I will bring us together to forge the future that we need in Salt Lake County.
Thank you, Ben. Mark Crockett.
So again, I think this is a simple question. Do you want a political facilitator, or do you want a leader, a manager, a person who actually knows how to run large, complicated organizations? Ben has proven himself to be an effective political facilitator, but I would assert to you, and I was a lawyer too, that a lawyer is not the same as a business leader. The county has an $820 million budget. It's 3,600 employees. We have complex problems, and that's what I have spent my entire career doing since that brief stint as a lawyer, is going out and actually working with companies, growing businesses, creating jobs. Who do you trust to actually run a large and complicated organization like the county? Who do you trust to actually get their hands around a budget, because he's done it many, many times before? Who do you trust to take a business side perspective? Who do you trust to actually know how to bring jobs to this valley and create more opportunities for everybody? That is what I've done with my career. That is what I would like to do for Salt Lake County. My name is Mark Crockett, and I ask for your support.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a round of applause.